All right, let's dive in. We're going to talk about Terraform today, and specifically how you can take just a simple text file and turn it into real live infrastructure in the cloud. It's pretty amazing stuff. Have you ever stopped to think about how that works? I mean, how can a few lines of text, just simple text, suddenly become an entire data center? We're talking servers, networks, the whole shebang, all just appearing in the cloud? How is that even possible? Well, spoiler alert, it's not actually magic. It's something way better, because it's a powerful and, most importantly, predictable workflow. And that's what we're going to break down, step by step. Okay, so let's start with the core Terraform workflow. Honestly, if you get this one concept, you're 90% of the way there. It all comes down to this fundamental philosophy: write, plan, and apply. So here's how it works. First, you write. You just define what you want as code. Simple. Then, and this is the crucial part, you plan. Think of this as a preview, a dry run. Terraform shows you exactly what it's about to do before it does it, and only when you're happy with that plan, you apply it. And poof, your infrastructure comes to life. It's that loop that makes everything so safe and predictable. All right, that's the theory. But how do you actually do it? Well, that brings us to your essential commands. These are going to be the building blocks for your entire Terraform journey. You'll be using these all the time. First things first, you always start with Terraform init. You just have to. It's the setup command. It gets your project ready by going out and downloading all the necessary plugins. We call them providers that Terraform needs to communicate with whatever cloud you're using. AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, you name it. Okay, after init, we have Terraform plan. And this command is honestly what makes Terraform so special. It doesn't actually change anything. It's a dry run. It compares your code to what's currently out there in the real world and tells you, hey, here's exactly what I'm going to create, what I'm going to change, and what I'm going to destroy. This preview is absolutely key to avoiding mistakes. Yeah, I really love this saying. It's the perfect way to think about it. Plan is the measure twice, cut once of infrastructure. It's your one chance to look everything over, catch any oops moments, and make sure it's all correct before you commit. Seriously, always read your plan. So, you've checked the plan, everything looks good, now what? Now it's time for Terraform Apply. This is it. This is the command that makes it all happen. It takes that plan you just approved and makes it a reality, building or modifying your infrastructure to match your code perfectly. And what about when you're finished with that infrastructure? Well, for that, there's Terraform Destroy. And yeah, this is a really powerful command. You gotta respect it. It tears down everything that Terraform is managing. It's fantastic for cleaning up temporary test environments or just completely decommissioning a project safely and cleanly. So let's just recap that standard workflow. It's a simple progression. You init to get set up, you can run validate to check your syntax, then you plan to see what's going to happen, and finally you apply to make it so. Following this sequence is what guarantees that every single change is deliberate and predictable. All right, you've got the basics down. Now let's level up. We're going to talk about mastering the command line. These are the pro-level moves you'll need for handling real-world complexity and automation. 'Cause let's be real, in the real world, it's never that simple, right? You've got your dev environment, staging environment, maybe a couple of production environments. You've got CI/CD pipelines running everything automatically. So how do you manage all that? Well, this is where these pro tools come into play. You'll use commands like validate and FMT just to keep your code looking good and error-free. To handle different environments, you'll lean heavily on the -var file flag. That's a lifesaver. In your automation pipelines, -auto-approve is your friend, so you don't have to manually type yes every time. And then there's -target. This lets you change just one specific thing. But listen, use this one with extreme caution. It's really easy to mess things up with it. So we've talked about the commands and the workflow, but let's look under the hood for a second. How is all of this even possible? How does Terraform know how to talk to AWS and Azure and GitHub and hundreds of other services? The secret sauce is something called a provider. You can think of a provider as a special plugin that acts like a translator. There's a provider for AWS, another for Azure, one for GitHub, and each one knows how to speak the specific language, the API, of that service. That's what makes Terraform a universal tool. And this brings up a really important distinction, something you'll definitely get asked about. What's the difference between a provider and a resource? It's simple.
The provider is the translator, right? Like the AWS provider. The resource is the thing you're building with that translator, like an AWS instance, an actual server.
Speaking of interviews, let's switch gears and finish up with a little rapid-fire session to help you ace your next one. If you're going for a DevOps or cloud role, you absolutely have to know these concepts inside and out.
Okay, first question. Let's say a new version of the AWS provider just came out. It's got new features, but it could also have breaking changes. How do you stop it from wrecking your perfectly good code?
The answer is all about stability, and you get that through version pinning. You literally specify in your code, I only want to use this specific version of the provider. Then Terraform creates a special lock file, the .terraformlock.hcl file, that guarantees everyone on your team and all your pipelines are using the exact same version. No surprises.
All right, next one. This is a super common scenario. Your company has one AWS account for dev and a completely separate one for prod. How can you manage both from the same Terraform project?
This is a two-part answer. First, you use something called a provider alias. It's basically like giving a nickname. You configure the AWS provider once for dev and then a second time with an alias for prod. Then, for the prod one, you use an assume role block. That's the secure AWS way to let your Terraform code temporarily get the permissions it needs in that other account.
And there you have it. We've gone from the core idea of write, plan, apply, to the essential commands and all the way to the providers that make it all work. You really have the full picture now, that whole journey from code to cloud. So, I guess there's only one question left. What are you going to build first?